Hi, everybody. Welcome to Colorado Inside Out. I'm your host, Dominic Dezzutti. Thank you for joining us. Let's get a quick take on the Fort Collins City Council expanding the city's smoking ban to include vapor or e-cigarettes. Patty Calhoun from Westward, do you think this is going to catch on for other cities?
Well, it might. It gets around a very sticky issue, which is there are a lot of people who are out using those e-pens to smoke dope. So it's a kind of a loophole closer that way, and I think other people will take it up. The issue still is, are those safer? Are those better for your health than regular cigarettes? And there's still some debate over that, but there's no question that this is an easy way to not have to go around policing and trying to figure out what someone is smoking.
Craig Silverman, now a radio talk show host at KNUS, 710 a.m. Every Saturday morning from 9 to 12. Thank you for joining us. Is this, I mean, for some folks on the whole smoking thing, the e-cigarettes seem to be safer. The whole idea of second-hand smoke goes away, but they're still banning this. Do you think it'll grow more than Fort Collins?
I think every municipality will debate it. I think Lakewood did as well. And if you're in a restaurant, somebody pulls that out, it's still disconcerting. It's not as bad as a cigarette, but it's not nothing. And if you're there dining, especially with your kids, it doesn't send a good message. So I would think that most places will say, no, we've worked so hard to get smoking out of our restaurants, we're not going to allow this.
Eric Sonneman, political analyst. Do you think this is just part of a continuing trend that's just eventually going to see smoking outlawed more and more out of our society?
Well, I think that's clearly the direction we're going in. I was part of that years ago. My former firm, lots of anti-smoking ordinances around the state. That's clearly where I come down. Having said that, these devices are used by some people who have been addicted as a way off or a step off of that addiction. And so I think there could be a law of unintended consequences where you're hurting people who are trying to cope with their addiction. The messages are so pervasive in our society now that smoking is bad for you. It's, anyone who doesn't have that message, has less than room temperature IQ here. I agree. I don't want to be in a restaurant where, whether it's one of these e-vapor devices or a real cigarette, I don't even want to be on a restaurant patio where that is. But you don't want to turn people into total pariahs. Now Fort Collins is talking about outlawing it in parks. And these are humans too, humans with a very nasty addiction. And you have to make some accommodation.
Natasha Gardner, senior editor of 5280 magazine. Wrap it up for us.
I think it's amazing how far our societal view on cigarettes has changed. I mean, now we're at a point, if someone pulls out an e-cigarette, we're all shocked. How does this happen versus, where we were 10, even 15, 20 years ago? I always worry about regulations or laws that are based on new products that are really reactionary. And I think this deserves some more discussion, as we pointed out. There are other issues involved in here, and if simply the shock of seeing someone with an e-cigarette is the reason we're doing this, it needs to be a little more nuanced before we pass laws.
Right. Governor John Hickenlooper announced this week that he will not call a special session to consider a proposed compromise on fracking regulations. The governor hoped to avoid several anti-fracking and local control measures from getting to the ballot this year, but did not have the support to get the compromise passed. Patty, the governor gave this a 50-50 shot just a few weeks ago, but it seemed like he was the only optimist. Everyone else was thinking that it may not even happen. What do you think about the announcement finally coming that the special session will simply not happen?
Well, the clock was running out. That's the real issue, because the people trying to put 88 and 89 on the ballot have until August 4th. They're about halfway with the signatures with the cushion you need 86,000 legit signatures, and they're at about 65,000 in popular wisdom, as Eric will tell you, is probably to go for 120. I think they'll probably get there. They've got money behind the campaign. They've got Jared Polis behind the campaign. We did lose one of the really contentious issues, which was 75, and that one, which I think would have been made the election even uglier, that one was pulled. We'll see it back in 2016, I think. But they just ran out of time, and if you had a 50-50 shot of even having a special session, the odds of getting legislation that would work out was bad. But now we know we have a 99% chance of having a really ugly election. As people start fighting, the only winners here are going to be the media outlets that get the ads, because there are going to be tons of them, $12 million at least from one side, and the political pundits who get to do some of these campaigns.
Certainly should be fun for us at this table. Craig, where is Governor Hickenlooper this politically? Is this a problem because he wasn't able to get it done, or is it a victory because he comes out as more of a moderate, having to be against Jared Polis on these issues that affect the entire state?
I think he's got a problem. He's in danger of alienating his base. He's going against the environmentalists and maybe against Jared Polis. Patty says Jared Polis is on board. We shall see. There are going to be pressures brought to bear on him. Do you really want to cost Mark Udall the race? Because John Hickenlooper and Udall and Romanoff have taken the side with the oil industry, traditionally the side the Republicans have. If Jared Polis goes against them with all his money, it's a political loser for John Hickenlooper. Can they get enough signatures on the ballot? Definitely, if Jared Polis pays for the people to collect the signatures. Bob Beaupre entered the race so late. He got the necessary signatures. It costs money, it takes effort, but it can be done if the will is there. And if it gets on the ballot, for a lot of people like me, science was not my forte. Political science is what I took. And okay, does it cause earthquakes? I don't know. One thing that might tip the balance in terms of me favoring the rights to fully develop our fracking and oil and gas industry is national security. I'm tired of this foreign dependence on oil. It leads to problems throughout the world, and I'd love to get rid of that.
Eric, where do you think Hickenlooper is on this? And then Craig brought up a good point about Jared Polis. Does he throw a significant wrench at his fellow Democrats of Mark Udall and Andrew Romanoff and Governor Hickenlooper? Or does this give them a chance to be a little moderate in, frankly, a purple state like Colorado?
Well, first I would start, I think Hickenlooper made a worthy attempt. I've been critical of him on some other issues of late, but I think this was a worthy attempt. It was a responsible attempt by the chief executive of the state. It was not in the cards, and ultimately I think the governor recognized it was not in the cards and threw in the towel on this. I think the Jared Polis wrench has already been thrown. If I know anything about Jared Polis, he's not going to back down from this fight. That is not his personality. Flash back to Amendment 41, which was an attack on the whole political establishment, I don't remember how long, 6, 8, 10 years ago. And he was under a lot of pressure then, obviously was not in Congress at that point, to back off. And Jared is not one to back off from something that he feels personally and passionately about. I personally am getting somewhat of a kick at the moment out of the picture of Democrats acting like Republicans, i.e., Republicans have been the party for the last couple of decades with all these internal divisions, with all these internal fights and recriminations, and now you have it on the Democratic side of the aisle, and this is a significant wedge between those camps. I think ultimately the governor will be okay here. I think Udall is far more exposed because he's trying to duck and dodge and weave on this issue and not really come down. Hickenlooper, you know where he is. And at the end of the day, yeah, there'll be a few Green voters who won't be able to pull that lever. But I think when the race really gets defined between Hickenlooper and Beaupre, most Democrats will come home and support Hickenlooper. I believe that Udall has far more at stake here and a far tougher race.
Natasha, the oil and gas industry has not taken any risks so far. We've seen the airwaves hit with a lot of ads. We've seen the bipartisan stuff with Governor Owens and Governor Romer. We've seen things with business leaders like Kelly Brough. Have they made enough headway to at least head these off with a pass, or are we headed for something of epic proportions here?
Epic proportions. This election is really going to be interesting. I think what's amazing to me is both with oil and gas and with the politicians, there seems to be an overestimation on how much you can oversimplify the issue. So it seems that they're all focused on, oh, this is an environmental issue or this is a business issue. And the fact is, fracking is a way more complex, like all good political issues. It's way more complex than one or those other things. So it's questions about home values if a well is too close to your house. It's a question about is this safe for your kids, or earthquakes, or whatever else. But it's not just one or the other. And that's where I think if we see someone come out of this successfully, it's not going to be by dodging the issue. It's going to be by hitting it straight on and saying, yeah, it's complicated. Let's start to talk and figure out a solution for it.
Two different polls released this week show a seesaw battle for the U.S. Senate and a small lead for Bob Beaupre in the governor's race. A Quinnipiac University poll showed Beaupre with a 1-point lead over Hickenlooper and showed Gardner with a 2-point lead over Udall. But an NBC Marist poll showed Udall with a 7-point lead over Gardner. Craig, polls in July aren't worth too much about predicting what's going to happen November 4th. But it can do a lot about fundraising, it can do a lot about momentum. What do you take away from the polls announced this week?
I think it's close. It's exciting. I think that fracking could be a big issue. Immigration, and now with the revelation that the city of Denver may be bringing some of these Central American kids to a facility on Federal in central Denver, that could be a big issue. People are getting stirred up about that. What middle school are they going to go to? What high school? Are they going to go with my kids? Who's going to pay for this? I think that could be a hot topic. Cory Gardner is definitely a formidable candidate against Mark Udall, and it seems to me right now that the only way Cory Gardner can lose is if this personhood/abortion attack resonates with people. Because Mark Udall has put all his eggs in that basket. And if Cory Gardner loses, it's going to be because of his prior position in support of personhood. Now, a lot of people think, well, he just changed for political expediency, and maybe that's so, but Cory put out a really pretty compelling ad that said, I listen to people, I changed my mind, I'm not for personhood anymore. So it'll be fascinating to see the way it turns out on the governor's race. The Republicans nominated, in my opinion, the best candidate to go against John Hickenlooper. Heck, Patty's going to be on a train with both of them up to Cheyenne tomorrow. I've seen their interaction before. Bob Beaupre is a formidable man. He is strong, he is good-natured, and a natural leader. So I think he's going to give John Hickenlooper the race of his life, and I think the governor knows that.
Eric, I know when it comes to ballot issues, at this stage of the game, you've got to have a pretty good lead because it's probably going to ebb over between now and Election Day. But when you're taking on an incumbent, is it just keep it close to the very end? If you're analyzing this and seeing the numbers right now, what do you take away from it?
Well, the key number in most political races involving not ballot issues, but candidates, and particularly incumbents, is not where the race is, the head-to-head at this point in time. It's where the incumbent is, and where the incumbent is vis-a-vis 50%. If that incumbent 6 months, and we're only 4 months or less than 4 months at this point, but if that incumbent at this point in time is well below 50%, that is problematic territory. I find these polls that were released this week somewhat in juxtaposition with each other. I cannot buy the notion that both Bob Beaupre is in a dead heat or 1 point up race against John Hickenlooper, and that Mark Udall is 7 points up over Cory Gardner. Those were two different polls, but I do believe that Cory Gardner is running ahead, that his prospects are better than Beaupre's prospects. Now, this was very good news for Bob Beaupre, even if the poll is completely fallacious, and even if he is not in neck and neck with Hickenlooper, even if he's 5 points down with Hickenlooper, this gives Republicans reason to believe, both locally and nationally, that Hickenlooper is vulnerable. They'll invest in Beaupre. The energy will flow to Beaupre, the volunteer effort, and certainly the money will start flowing to Beaupre now, because it looks like a potentially winnable race. I regard the Senate race as it's going to be close. We could have the same topic on this show for the next 4 months. It is going to be close until the final hour. I think the real issue in my mind, I'm not quite where Craig is, that it's totally Cory's to win. The Republicans have a long losing streak in this state, and until they break that losing streak, they remain the underdogs in my mind. It's how big is the national wave? A small national wave will not be sufficient for Cory Gardner. A big national wave will do the trick, and that wave might be there.
Natasha, defeating incumbents from either party is very difficult, especially in Colorado, especially in a statewide race. If you're either incumbent right now, whether it's Governor Hickenlooper or Senator Udall, how do you feel at this stage of the game?
Well, I think Beaupre has to feel optimistic. Hickenlooper is untested in an election in many ways. He hasn't had a really serious election to go up against. So Beaupre has plenty of fodder from the last 4 years for Hickenlooper. So that's going to become interesting. I think that Udall and Gardner is going to become a classic Colorado race. I think that the polls that we see right now are really not indicative of where we're going to end up. Independents are going to come into this situation. And I think it's exciting because both of them have sort of the bad news of Washington reputation on their back, and they're going to have to deal with that, and they can't get away with that. So it's almost an apple to apple election, and that's always good for constituents because it's going to be interesting and it's going to give people a chance to really see which candidate is best for them.
Patty, we're talking politics in July, which is, I guess, a good sign for, like you said, all the media folks getting commercial money. But what do you take away for these campaigns?
Well, that the polls don't mean a lot right now. You said it yourself. The numbers that are the most important in the polls is how much it can bring in fundraising. I don't know if anyone did the research and went back to how Bob Beaupre polled in 2006, but let's remember he was running against Bill Ritter, who, nice man, but not exactly a dynamic candidate. Certainly never as popular as Hickenlooper has been as governor. And Beaupre lost by 17 points. So the question is he listening to better people now? Are the Democrats that damaged here in Colorado? We can see a lot of swing go in the next 3.5 months on that. I think the issue of personhood is not going to be something that's going to be easy for Cory Gardner to escape because it is on the ballot. So that's going to be something, even if he's very deft in his campaign, we're still going to be hearing about it. There's smart people campaigning against that ballot initiative. We are going to hear about it nonstop, except when we're hearing about fracking, up through November. So there are a lot of issues on which people can define themselves, and I think both the status in both the Senate race and the gubernatorial race can swing really quickly. These are not dead heats right now.
Same-sex marriage continues to dominate headlines this week as confusion over Colorado's current ban grows. Attorney General John Suthers and 5 county clerks have petitioned the Colorado Supreme Court to make a decision on whether marriage licenses should be issued to gay couples. Meanwhile, more than 200 marriage licenses have been issued to same-sex couples in Boulder, Denver, and Pueblo counties in the last couple of weeks. Eric, we know where history is going on this. We know where the trend has been through all these different cases, but the fact of the matter is there is still some legal confusion. Do you think the Supreme Court is going to step up and offer at least some sort of clarification on this?
I hope they do. I don't know if they will. I think it is their option. Craig can opine on this as the attorney when it gets around to him at the table. But I believe the court has discretion of whether they want to accept this or not, or just let it percolate on its normal timetable up through the appellate system. We're not, Dominic, at yet what I call the end game of this issue, but we're at what I consider the beginning of the end game, and where the end is starting to be in sight. And whether that end comes through the political sector, i.e. a ballot measure, or it comes through the judicial sector, i.e. a court ruling, Colorado Supreme Court or otherwise, the arc of history is unmistakable on this one, and the end is in sight, and I just don't know how many years down the road that is. I hope it's a short number.
Natasha, Attorney General Suthers has been getting pressure not only from Democrats, but actually some of his fellow Republicans lately to just stop the fighting on this, stop the appeals, let the other legal courts take action, but stop what he's doing. Is he doing the right thing because he's really the Attorney General of Colorado, or is he politicizing it by looking to get the legal clarification?
I think a little bit of both. I think he's in a really difficult position. Whether you agree with this or not, he's trying to uphold what Colorado's laws actually say related to it. But there's law and there's public opinion, and as we've already discussed, this is where we're headed. And I think that this is not an issue you want to be the last man standing on. You don't want to be the person who really held out we've seen historically how tumultuous this issue is in our legislature, and we've seen what it's done. It's ruined political careers, and it's not worth doing it for. This is something that needs to happen. I'm glad. I'm excited when I open my email or look at my press information every day, and there's more and more of these. It's just the start, and that's a great movement.
Patty, John Suthers isn't running for anything this year. He's term limited for Attorney General. Do you think his point of view on this might be different if he was running for something this year?
No, I mean, I think he is upholding his office. This is the same thing that happened in Colorado back in 1992 with Amendment 2. You didn't have any choice. You had to, if you're the AG, you have to argue for what the voters have passed. So that's what he's doing here. I think the fact that the courts seem to be moving fairly quickly, maybe not quickly enough, but quickly enough to decide it will remove it from his problem. And it's going to, and we know the court of public opinion has already changed very quickly, and that ultimately this will be what's accepted. So we just have a lot of legal shenanigans up till then.
Craig, you are a local expert of legal shenanigans. Give us your point of view.
I'll tell you, I would go to sports metaphor, big momentum, big mo. The proponents of gay marriage have it on their side, and I've rarely seen an issue with such a turnaround speed. And the courts are slightly ahead of the voters. The voters have never approved it in Colorado, but if you look at young people, they don't even see the big issues. So it's going to happen, much like Brown versus Board of Education. I'd compare it to Rosa Parks, who took a stand and they said, I'm not going to ride in the back of the bus anymore. I look at a plaintiff's lawyer, Mari Newman, who said to every court she can get in front of, we need it now, not another day. We're not going to sit in the back of the bus for another day. And people are gradually realizing that's the right thing to do. It's an immutable characteristic for most gay people. It's only right, it's only fair. And the die was really pretty much cast when we let gay people adopt children. It's unfair to the children that their parents can't marry. And everybody's coming to that realization, and courts are trying to be the first in line to declare it because they recognize where the right side of history is.
Let's get a quick take on this last topic. The Denver Sheriff's Department has come under fire yet again this week after a video was released by ColoradoIndependent.com of a deputy punching a man who was booked at the downtown detention center on Sunday. According to a news release issued this week, the deputy involved in the incident will be on paid leave until an investigation is complete. Natasha, I know the sheriff's office is different than the police department, but what does Mayor Hancock do about this?
He has to do something. It's gotten to, the old adage is you can't count on something. You can count on the fact that the sheriff's department or the police department will be in trouble. Now, there's been more emphasis on the police department sort of cleaning up their act, but I think now, especially with Hancock looking at re-election in 2015, he has to address this. Now, we saw in his State of the City speech that he's sort of making moves to set up that platform to start thinking about re-election, and this has to be one of the major points as he does that.
Patty, what's Mayor Hancock's move here, and how does it differ because it's the sheriff's department instead of the police department?
Well, and the sheriff's department has talked over the last few months about how it has to clean itself up. I mean, it's not just the police department that's come under fire for this, but the hits just keep coming at the sheriff's department, and I think...
Quite literally.
Yeah, in this case, what kind of investigation do you need when you actually have it on videotape? Yesterday, a sheriff's deputy was trying to get his job back. He, off the job, went chasing after someone when he was in road rage and started shooting. I mean, the sheriff's department needs a pretty thorough house cleaning at the top.
Craig, what's your short take?
Kudos to the Colorado Independent for getting a hold of this latest video. Again, very disturbing. And I was at Mayor Hancock's State of the City address. He said, it's a few bad apples. But when somebody feels like they can attack a prisoner in that way with other guards around who will have his back, that might indicate a culture, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, Eric, wrap it up for us.
This issue has become persistent, as has been noted around here. This city needs more from the mayor on this one than we're getting right now. He needs both rhetorically and administratively to draw some clear lines as to what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. He has to lead on this one. He needs to do so sooner rather than later. And the people he really owes it to, well, it's the citizens of Denver, but it's also the good cops and the good sheriff's officers out there. He has to differentiate acceptable behavior from unacceptable behavior so that I do believe the vast majority of law enforcement officials are honorable and in this for all the right reasons, but you only honor them if you draw a clear line and get rid of the others.
I couldn't echo that more. Let's get to our very favorite part of the week, Disgrace of the Week. Patty, as always, start us off.
Well, we have a very sad anniversary coming up this weekend. It is on Sunday. It's the second anniversary of the Aurora shootings, and our hearts go out to all the survivors and hope they heal.
Craig.
Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you get better. The Rockies ownership, the Monfort brothers, they're going to have to sell the team, and that's great news for Colorado.
Eric.
I totally concur with Craig's one. Let me go internationally here. The news is still coming out about the missile attack that brought down that Malaysian plane. Whoever was behind it, and I think we're starting to get some hints of who was behind it, but whoever was behind it, you have a hard time understanding what the motive was, even if there was a rational motive. It's an act of incredible cruelty and inhumanity, whoever was behind that attack.
Natasha.
I'm going to piggyback on that. It's just a truly awful moment in world history. And I think that some of the early news reports I saw made special emphasis on whether there were Americans on the plane or not. It does not matter.
I completely
This is a
agree.
world issue.
I can care less how many Americans are on the plane. There's still 300 people, regardless of nationality. Okay, time to have some fun, say something nice about somebody. Patty.
Well, since Craig already brought it up, the Cheyenne Frontier Days train, a great tradition that the Denver Post continues.
Craig.
Denver may not have won the RNC, but it's got the Western Conservative Summit. Sarah Palin, Ted Cruz, Ben Carson. It's quite a show in downtown Denver this weekend.
Eric.
A terrific night of music last night at Red Rocks featuring some of Colorado's finest. It was the Colorado Symphony with 3 local musical groups, Devotchka, Gregory Alan Issakoff, and Elephant Revival. Colorado's home to some substantial musical talent.
Natasha.
There's new rules that will allow some individual citizens to sell jams and jellies and home-baked goods. And I think it's not only just fun, I mean, who doesn't want homemade jam, but it's also a great way for people to get involved in business and start out small.
Well, that is all the time we have tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Before we go, I want to share a little bit of good news. Last weekend, Colorado Inside Out, circa 1973, our time machine trip from last year, won an Emmy for Best Interview or Discussion Program. Many thanks to our entire crew and for all of you that make this show possible. If you missed it last year, go to cpt12.org and check it out. For our viewers watching our live stream right now, stay tuned for a special behind-the-scenes segment. And for our broadcast viewers, we'll see you next week. For everyone here at Channel 12, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Hi, I'm Larry, audio guru and time machine producer for Colorado Inside Out. Today I'm in my role as audio guy. I've just received the lineup for today's episode of Colorado Inside Out. And the first thing I'm going to do here is actually make sure all my microphones are working.
Besides, if you're into a bar, talk to problematic.
Got 5 microphones working here, and as you could probably hear in the background, we hear background chatter and all of those things. The next thing I'm going to do here, this mixer we have, digital console, actually has the ability to remember the different participants in our shows on there. So what I'm going to do now is go in and find here in the list all the people that'll be participating in today's show. David Kopel, Patricia Calhoun, the queen of the show, the actual true star of the show, Dominic, the new and engaging host taking over from the popular Raj Chauhan. And now all those people's voices, the tunings that I've created for those individuals have been entered into the board, and I've got them to where they'll sound at their absolute best when the show starts. If you watch the shows here, you'll note that the microphones are typically on the side facing the host if someone's on a lapel. That's so when they turn to Dominic, there's a mic between them and Dominic. If they turn the other way, he'd be gone. If I put the mic over here and he's talking to Dominic, we don't really hear him. If I have the chance and someone's wearing a tie and I expect they're going to be turning to both ways in the audience, we'll try and place it on the tie. If you see that, somebody on the tie, it was because it was either really convenient and easy to hang it on their tie, or because we expected they'd be having to turn both ways to address different panelists. And so that ensures that we pick them up. The next step in the process is to go get a cup of coffee and talk to Dominic.
Hey, Simon, how are you? Why, it's good to see you. We're having our usual Friday cup of coffee, and it's always, as always, it's a kind of Larry and Dominic tradition, if you will. It's some of Columbia's finest, if you will, but it's what makes CIO what it is. It's something where everyone has to be on their toes. That's there's nothing there.
It's all about the beans, man.
It's always been about the beans. You ever want to know what the secret is behind Carter Inside is? Good coffee.
I'd like to thank my agent and to all the members of the Academy for making this possible.